Okay, so the journey continues. Today is Tuesday, November 23rd. And so we continue with our mini topics and we're jumping right in. And by now, you all know David Etienne, your certified public accountant from Etienne Business Solutions. We're jumping right in. Today, we're going to be looking at research and development. Very, very important though, and I purposely put that little label or title to say R&D expensing versus R&D credit. Because that's important that you get the distinction. So quickly, the norm has been from way back that when businesses incur expenses for research and development purposes, then in the past, what used to happen is that it was immediate write-off, and then the rules changed and they had to write off those expenses or expenditure over a 5-year period. Now we're back now to the one big beautiful bill. And so as of July 2025, we have now gone back to the possibility of immediate write-off. But just before we dive into that, let's look at the difference. Now, what this bill does is to say to you, if you incur research and development expenses, and there are some strict criteria for those expenses to correctly qualify as R&D for the purpose of what we're discussing. So if you have incurred expenses on the research and development umbrella, then once you have satisfied the requirements, you're allowed to fully deduct those R&D expenses right off the bat, right away in the year when they were incurred, not having to spread them over a 5-year period, as was the case. That's one thing. Cool. Now, careful not to know, this is a deduction. Very important. So what it's saying is that if you incurred $5,000 worth of R&D expenses and you're allowed to write it off in the same year, then you can deduct $5,000 from your income so that your taxable income now becomes less. It's a deduction. Okay, so it will benefit you, but the extent to which it will benefit you is going to be the deduction times the tax rate. That will actually calculate how much tax savings you would have had from that deduction, which is different from the R&D tax credit. Because the R&D tax credit now would be a percentage of your R&D expenses, but once that percentage is computed to give you the dollar value, then you are able to, as it is described, as a dollar for dollar deduction. And that is what a credit does. So with a credit, you first do all the calculations until you reach to the point where it says, okay, this is the amount of tax you would owe. Let's say it's $5,000. Then you apply your credits to that tax figure to reduce it. So if the credit is $1,000, then whatever would have been your tax bill, that tax bill will be reduced by $1,000 R&D tax credit. Okay, so whatever the computation for the credit, it reduces your tax bill dollar for dollar, which is different from if you had taken a deduction of the qualified R&D expenses, which would now reduce your taxable income, which would give you, yes, a tax saving benefit, but it would not be in the same vein as a dollar for dollar benefit that the credit gives you. Sounds a little technical, but it's not too bad. But you know, by now you say, okay, here we go again. But David always say that. If you're in doubt, seek some advice, seek some consultation, seek some guidance from your professional. Okay, so that is very, very important. So that's another one of the nuggets that you do not want to overlook if you fall in that category where you have been incurring R&D expenses, you have been spending on R&D, and you need to go through to ensure that you satisfy the provision, the requirements to qualify, and there are like 4 key components. Once you can check all those boxes and say, yes, I qualify for a full deduction of whatever I spent on R&D. Okay, a deduction. Or on the other hand, you can say, okay, I am going to opt for my R&D tax credit, which is where now I am going to go through, calculate right down to the last point, what would be my tax bill. Then whatever credit I qualify for, I'm going to use that credit to reduce the tax bill. So if the credit is $2,500 based on your computation, then your tax bill will be reduced by $2,500. Key difference, key distinction between how deductions and credits work. So this is just applying the principle to research and development. Very important for you to look at. And again, it's here, but if you want to quickly, recap, since we're going pretty quickly, recap, you can always find the, you can see a replay and repeat on our YouTube channel, Etienne's Place. Etienne's Place is where you have your repository of all things that's good and informative for you. So check it out and take the full advantage of the R&D deductions or the R&D tax credit, whichever is applicable and whichever you can actually latch on to. Do not overlook it if you qualify. That's my bit on this Tuesday, and I'll see you down the road.